Hi guys, Andy here, and I'm here to bring you all things Monday to Makeup related. If that's your vibe, I'd love it if you would subscribe to be part of my little slice of the internet. And in today's video, we are doing the first episode of Comparing Palettes. So in today's video, it'll be the Beaute Tropical Vibes versus the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. So if you want to hear all of the details, see, the looks up close and everything, let's go ahead and jump in. Alrighty, so if you don't know what these palettes look like, this is the Beaute Tropical Vibes. Hang on, I'll hold them up together. And then this is the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. And here they are together like so. So, let's see. First, I'm going to give some deets. Then we will go into swatches. And then we will talk about my look. I think that that's the best way to go about this. So, the Beaute Tropical Vibes palette they both have 15 shades, but this one has 12 mattes and 3 shimmers, and this retails for $38.99, though you can no longer get this palette from Beaute. It has 7.2 ounces of product in the shadows, which excuse me, is $5.42 per ounce, or if you're in grams, that's 204 grams, 19 cents per gram. So there are some deets. We will go through pros and cons at the very end, because I already have those listed and some other things. So the Natasha Denona Yucca palette, which also, I will say, I do love the packaging on both. I love the gold foiling on this, the old Beaute packaging. But I love, this has like that soft matte, which I love. So the Natasha Denona palette, again, 15 shades. But this palette has 10 mattes, 4 sparkling foiled shades, and 1 just true metallic. This is $69, and this is still available on Natasha Denona's site. This is 0.61 ounces of product. And let me just make sure. Yeah, which is $42.09 per ounce. Or it's 17.4 grams, which is $3.97 per gram, if you care about, the conversions. That is the money. That is crazy. The difference in weight there. And, obviously we can tell these are smaller shades than the Beaute. But, that means it's going to take me literally a lifetime to go through this palette than it will these Natasha Denona shades. To be fair, this is also, this is a heavier palette, which, it has more shadow in it, so it should be heavier. So, now we can go ahead and get into swatches. Everything I've done, listing and talking about, and even my eye look, I've done the Beaute first, because this is a palette, 1, that I had longer, and 2, I've used this palette. 1, I've used every shade in it in years prior. I've come to know this palette and love it. So I just wanted to use this one first because I know this formula. Today was the first time I've ever used my Yucca palette. So we will go ahead. I have the makeup wipe is still doing makeup wipe things. I'm going to start here, go across, and go down. But I will tell you shade names. So, we have Mango, which is here. For you guys, we'll do it right here. And I've never really, oh, that's horrible for you to see. I have never swatched on my arm, so bear with me. So, mango. We'll put mango right there. Beautiful. Then we have palm tree and khaki. So I'm just going to put those as close as I can next to it. So there's, oh God, this is going to be awful. I can already tell. But I'm going to try to be like a good swatch YouTuber and like swatch it on my arm. So then we have the first shimmer, which is Rainforest, which is on my inner corner here. I didn't know if you could tell, but this side, which is my right, is the Ace Beaute palette. But this, why is there a hair? This is Rainforest. And then we have Pickle and Palawan. So Rainforest, Pickle, Palawan. Yep, I need to learn how to swatch straight. But that's okay. This is the first time I've done on my arm, so we'll learn. We have Olive, Oahu, and Jungle. I love Oahu. And honestly, I don't mind that I went up my arm like this because then I can go on my hand a little bit, so. And the swatches are going to get shorter because my hand is wet, so that's no fault of the palette, for sure. And then we have Army, Safari, and the next shimmer, which is National Park, which is the other shimmer I used in my look today. Okay. I love the little bit of like browny red tones in the palette. And the last three shades are Chartreuse, which is my favorite in the palette because it's Chartreuse, Cave, and the last shimmer, which is Seychelles. And those are right there. That Chartreuse is so good. I love me a chartreusey green. So there is just the tiniest bit of kick up in like 2 or 3 of the shades. But that's it. Otherwise, these shades don't like powder kick up in the pan. I know some people care about that, some people don't, so I will mention that for the people who do. And next we will do the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. So, this shade starts with the sparkling foiled shades. So we have Plantasia, Calathea, and Komorebi. Gorgeous. Now, and actually, you know what? I will save that for after the swatches, for the discussion. Then we have Acacia, and Camu Camu, and Tipu. Those shades there. If I pronounce any of these wrong, so sorry. Elysian, Valley, and Citrine, which I do like this shade, but it doesn't look like a citrine shade for me, personally. Just saying. And that Elysian shade is really pretty. It's got like a pinky purple undertone. Next we have Ray. This is the metallic. Flex and Fushi. Ray, Flex, and Fushi. So I do have the metallic on my eyes, and then I have one of the sparkling foils, just to say that, but we will go over that. And the last three shades are Maquia, Ixia, and Willow. I know I'm butchering these wholeheartedly. And those are the last three shades there. Phew. So, now that we're done getting our hands all wet for the moment, because I'll wash these off after. And in fact, let me just open that up and switch it to the other side. So, the shades that I used on each eye. Again, we will start with the Ace Beaute. Also, by the way, in swatch, these did not have kick up, but in my eye look, oh dear God, did these have, I think, the most kick up. Like, these had, like, ABH level kick up in a pan. Like, it was crazy amount of kick up. So, I started with Chartreuse to just set my eye primer because I used a shadow stick, and that went on. All of these shades, the mattes and the shimmers, went on beautifully. Like, this look took all of like 5 minutes to do because these shades are pigmented, but they're blendable. Then I went into the shade Oahu to just like go into the crease. And then I just took a mixture of Jungle and Army in my outer corner. And that's all I did for mattes. And then I went like backwards on those shades on my lower lash line. And then for shimmers, I have National Park on the outer edge, and Rainforest is the inner corner in. So those are the shades that I used for this palette. And then to try to match the look, which I think I did pretty well, but it took so much more effort out of this palette. Also, I would rate this palette like an 8 out of 10. I do wish, sorry, we'll get back to this palette, my apologies. I wish this shade Rainforest was lighter because I feel like it being the lightest shimmer in the palette, it's still dark. So I wish that this shade was lighter. All the mattes, fantastic, blendable, gorgeous, great. This was actually really pretty. I don't ever use that shimmer. Like, I don't ever really use the other two shimmers, to be honest, but my only issue with this palette, because I only have really one, besides, like, I wish this was lighter, but it's still a really good shimmer. I do still really like it. My one complaint about this palette, before we get into, like, pros and cons even, this shimmer. Because it doesn't go with the palette, in my opinion. Because you would think that this shade would be teal enough to like pair with this, but this does not come out teal. It does not come out teal in swatch. It does not come out teal on the eyes. And this just does not really go with the palette at all. It's a beautiful shimmer. Like, it is absolutely stunning. It just does not go with the palette. So I would have either liked another matte, because these mattes are stunning. I'm so mad that Ace Beaute is reformulating again, because this is stunning, but I would have either liked another matte or just another, like, I would have liked a green shimmer, like an actual green. Not a teal, a real, like, true green. So, I rate that an 8 out of 10, personally. Now we can get into Natasha Denona. So, I started with, of course, Camu Camu to set my lid, and it worked. It's literally, it's the same shade, I think, but like a hint lighter. But I had to build it up like 5 layers. That, I had to do that with all of the mattes in this palette. And I don't know if you can see that in the swatches. The mattes specifically are so just lightly pigmented. You have to build these mattes up so aggressively. And I've only used, a handful of my Natasha. I think I've used half. Out of all of my Natasha Denona palettes, I think I've used half. I have never had to build up mattes like I do in this palette. It was crazy. So then to get the same kind of green shade, there isn't one in this palette. So I ended up mixing citrine and acacia. I know I'm mispronouncing that. Blazemere. Come here. Nope, come here. Oh, say hello. If you cry and come to the desk, you gotta say hi. So his water fountain broke. Sorry to segue. Because when we got him from the shelter, they said that he really likes running water. They tested him for diabetes, and he does not have diabetes because apparently that's a thing that cats can have if they like running water. But his water fountain broke recently, and so he doesn't have one. So he constantly wants to go into our bathtub or into our bathroom sink to get water, which is fine. We're going to get him another fountain. I have not gotten paid yet. Because, disability, you only get paid once a month. And Ian's not currently working. So it is what it is. He's still getting water. But it just, I can't leave my bathtub because I pay for water. So I can't leave my bathtub running, even at a drip, all day. But that's what he wants, is constantly hey, I want water. And I've tried leaving a bowl of water out for him. He kicks it over. He doesn't want stagnant water. So it's just that's what he's coming over here to yell about, even though it's right before I started filming, he got water. And when he gets water, he sits in there for about 5 minutes, drinking water, getting his whole head and face wet. It's a whole thing. But I have his new fountain in my Amazon cart. He's gonna get it. You gotta give me a minute, buddy. I can't just go buy it. I'm sorry. Anywho, for the crease shade, because there isn't one exactly the same, I ended up mixing these two shades, and it turned out very, very similar. So I had to get creative, but it did work. It's the same shade. I think these looks are extremely similar. I thought I heard my pump beeping, and I was like, excuse you? So I'm very happy with how creative I had to get to make these looks look the same, but that just shows that you can do that. Then for the deepening shade, again, I didn't feel like this was the correct shade, and I mixed two in here, so I ended up mixing Tipu with Flax. And I think that worked. I ended up really just using more of Flax, but I wanted the greeny tone. And I think that looks nice. For shimmers, like I said, I used Ray, the metallic, on the outer corner. This really doesn't have a gold. I feel like maybe I could have used this, but it's a duochrome. And I really wanted to use the one metallic and the sparkling foiled. So that is the one big difference between the two eye looks, but I don't think it's that big of a difference. It's one of those things that, from a distance, can you really tell my eye looks are that different? I don't think so, but you tell me, please. And then for the sparkling foil that I used on my inner corner, I used Komorebi, which I think is very, very similar to Rainforest. Rainforest, excuse me. So, that is my thing for that. I had to mix a bunch of shades to get similar shades, which is fine. But my biggest issue was the mattes. The mattes, dear lord. The shimmers were great. I love this sparkling foiled formula. These sparkling shades are gorgeous. I will say, after swatching it, I don't think that this shade, which is Elysian, I don't feel like that really belongs in the palette. Like, what are you going to pair that with? Just flax? Like, what else? What else are you going to wear that with? Like, even looking in the whole swatches of the palette, I just don't feel really like it goes. Personally, I think the biggest... Also, I rated this palette a 6 out of 10, and that wasn't me being nice. I think that the Natasha Denona palette goes more neutral, like the warmy, orangey browns, and the Ace Beaute goes more green. You can still get, obviously, a similar look, because they have green undertones, but they're browns. They're greeny, murky browns. So they are the same but different, if that makes sense at all. So now, pros and cons of both. For Ace Beaute, pros, which this is, again, personal preference. Pros would be pigmentation. I love how pigmented the Ace Beaute, this specifically, this formula was. Shimmer quality. The shimmers in this palette feel like Super Shocks. They're that, like, emollient, wet formula. The color story. Again, you know, and that's personal preference. I love this color story. I love greens. I do like the little bit of, like, murky, browny red neutrals. And the texture. I love the texture of the shimmers. I love how silky soft the mattes are. The cons would be, compared to the Natasha Denona palette, the limited neutrals. Because this is a more green palette. There are similar shades in here. A con for me, a big con, is this teal shimmer. I feel like it's a wasted shade. I've already talked about that. Biggest con for me is this is an older palette in my collection. It's obviously an older formula. Ace Beaute is reformulating, and that is a big con. Personally, you cannot buy this anymore, so it's discontinued, which, you know, means it's on the older side. It is still fine. Like, it doesn't even, it's one of the older ones. It's from their first release that I bought this. It doesn't even have the ingredients on the back. I bought this the very first time they released it. So, like, this is an older palette. So, for Natasha Denona, the pros are the sparkly shimmers, the sparkly foiled shades. I love those so very much. We need more of those in Natasha Denona. The pros are the color story. Obviously, I like this color story. I like that this has more neutrals in it. So the cons are there's not as many greens, if that's what you're looking for. I know there's supposed to be like 2 cream shades, but I don't know which ones those are. None of them felt like cream shades. The cream to powder. I could look that up really fast. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. Nope, according to the Natasha Denona website, they're all just regular mattes. None of them are the cream to powder. So, because I thought someone had said, I thought in reviews that I had seen that, like, this was a cream to powder or something. Nope, all the mattes are just regular mattes. So, personally, I feel like this and this are color dupes. In the palette itself, I don't think that we needed both of them. Like, this and this shade, I don't think we needed both of them. I feel like that's a dupe, that's a con for the palette. Also a con, we did not need the metallic. The regular metallic, I don't feel like did much of anything. And honestly, I want to add, sitting here right now, some of Makea to this outer edge because I think the metallic is a wasted space because these sparkling foils are so great. I'm never going to pick that metallic over the sparkling foils. So, we have 3 questions, I believe. I wrote down 3 questions at the end of this. Do they dupe each other? Yes, they can. Do they dupe each other when you just look at them? Yes and no. Like, I do think the Natasha Denona has more neutrals. Like I said, Ace Beaute has more greens. But obviously, yes, they dupe each other. Do I need both? I don't know. Like, I love the ease that the Ace Beaute palette gave me to get that look. But I'm not going to get rid of my Natasha Denona palette. Like, I'm damn near a collector of my Natasha Denona palettes, and I'm not going to get rid of it. And, like, the sparkling foiled formula in here was great. And even though I had to build the mattes, like, I still got a beautiful look. So then the question is, if I'm saying, do I need it? Then do I need this? I did say it was an older formula. This was from their first release. They're rebranding, they're reformulating, so do I need this then? If I have this. We're going to come back to that question, because the last question is, which is better? And that's so subjective. Because if I had to say ease of use, Ace Beaute is better. But if I had to say, like, ethereal, like, the look at the end of the day, I would say the Natasha Denona look is better. So we're going to go Natasha Denona. Because at the end of the day, I think that this is a little heavy. I think it could do with a little more blending, but trust me, I did. I tried my best with that. Their shades are just pigmented. I think, do I need both? The answer is no. So, honestly, at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter, which pains me, the Ace Beaute Tropical Vibes palette. Now, this is going to actually go in the garbage. No one's going to get this palette because it is so ungodly old. But that is what this series is going to consist of. Hang on, I'm just writing down that I'm decluttering the Ace Beaute Tropical Vibes, and that is the end of that. But that's what I want this to consist of, is possibly decluttering things in my collection, because why do I need whole duplicate palettes? Like, if these 2 palettes can literally do the same thing, why do I need both? The answer is I don't. And if I like one more than the other, and one performs better than the other, or one is newer than the other, then I should get rid of the other one. That is what I'm trying to get out of this collection. Obviously, if I want to keep both, I can. But given the state of how old this palette is, and even though I love it dearly with my whole heart and soul, if I could repurchase this palette, I honestly might. Like, if I could have, I would have. Because I love this so much. And I'm so sad that I'm going to get rid of it. But it is. I think it's time for it to go. It's time for it to retire. I think I will be very happy with this as its replacement, even though I have to build up the mattes. So, I hope you guys enjoyed our very first comparison. Let me know if you liked how I went about this. Let me know if you'd like to see me actually doing the looks with you. That would make for a longer video, but I can always put that in here. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.